The Grand Chamber of Harmony Station was packed with delegates from every corner of the galaxy. 47 different alien species had gathered for the quarterly military review, a routine event where new starship designs were presented, discussed, and either approved or rejected. The chamber itself was massive, with curved walls made of transparent aluminum that showed the stars beyond. Holographic displays floated everywhere, showing technical specifications and battle simulations. Ambassador Lisa Grant walked to the center platform, her boots clicking against the polished floor. She had been humanity's representative to the Galactic Council for 2 years now, and she knew how these meetings worked. The aliens were polite, careful, and extremely cautious about anything that might upset the balance of power. Humans were still the newcomers here, having joined the Council only 5 years ago. Behind Lisa, a massive hologram flickered to life, showing the UHSV Indomitable in all its glory. The battleship rotated slowly, its angular hull gleaming under simulated starlight. It looked like a predator, all sharp edges and aggressive lines. Even in hologram form it was impressive. Lisa took a breath and began her presentation. Honored delegates, humanity is proud to submit the Indomitable-class battleship for Council approval. This vessel represents our commitment to galactic defense and... Wait. The Valkyrie delegate was already scrolling through the technical specifications on his data pad, his 3 eyes widening with each line he read. Ambassador Grant, these numbers cannot be correct. Lisa kept her calm smile. I assure you, delegate, every specification has been verified and... The reactor output. The Valkyrie stood up, his voice rising. This is 4 times beyond our established safety limits. 4 times. Do you understand what happens if a reactor that powerful suffers a containment failure? It won't, Lisa said simply. You cannot guarantee that. Another voice joined in. The Sorrel commander, a tall being with blue crystalline skin, was shaking his head. And this armor system? What is this reactive nanoweave material? It is not on any approved list. Because we invented it, Lisa replied. Last year actually. It's quite remarkable. When the armor takes damage, the molecular structure doesn't just absorb the impact, it actually becomes stronger. We tested it against Class 5 plasma weapons, and after 3 direct hits, the armor was 40% more resistant than when we started. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Several delegates were frantically comparing notes, while others simply stared at the hologram with open disbelief. The military analyst from the Drexen Collective, an old veteran with more battle experience than most species had history, leaned forward. His voice was quiet but carried across the entire chamber. Ambassador Grant, I am looking at your weapon systems. Specifically these kinetic Hellstorm cannons. Explain to me please what exactly these are. Lisa had been waiting for this question. They're kinetic accelerators that fire solid projectiles at 0.98% the speed of light. Each round is made of depleted uranium wrapped in a tungsten shell. The ship carries 2,000 rounds per cannon, and has 18 cannons. The silence that followed was deafening. 0.98, the analyst repeated slowly. Percent of light speed. Yes, sir. That is... He paused, calculating. That is enough kinetic energy to crack a planet's crust. Only if you hit it enough times, Lisa said cheerfully. We ran the simulations. You'd need at least 40 direct hits on the same location. More if the planet has a molten core. A delegate from the peaceful Harmony species stood up, her voice trembling. Why would you even test such a thing? Thoroughness, Lisa shrugged. We like to know exactly what our weapons can do. The Valkyrie delegate had gone pale, which was impressive considering his natural skin color was already light gray. This ship violates at least a dozen safety protocols. The energy output alone makes it a flying bomb. And these weapons could be classified as planet killers. Actually, Lisa held up one finger, we checked very carefully. Planet killer weapons are defined in Council Law Article 7, Section 3 as any weapon system designed with the primary purpose of rendering a planetary body uninhabitable. Our cannons are designed to destroy military targets. The planetary damage would be a side effect, not the primary purpose. Completely different classification. That is the most horrifying technicality I have ever heard, muttered the Sorrel commander. Lisa pulled up another screen. We also have advanced point defense systems, shield generators that can overlap for redundant protection, and an AI-assisted targeting system we call Zeus. Oh, and the faster-than-light drive can make jumps 30% farther than standard Council vessels. This is madness, someone whispered. This is human engineering, Lisa corrected gently. We followed every single guideline in the submission requirements. The Indomitable meets the size restrictions, the crew capacity requirements, and the environmental standards. We have all the proper safety systems, escape pods, and communication arrays. Everything you asked for, we delivered. The chief military analyst stood up. Ambassador Grant, I think I speak for everyone here when I say we need to see this ship in action. No simulation, no virtual test. We need a real demonstration. Lisa had expected this. She smiled. Of course. We'd be happy to demonstrate the Indomitable's capabilities. The Kellis Proving Grounds, perhaps? 3 days from now. After 2 hours of heated debate, the council agreed. The vote was close, but curiosity won out over caution. As the meeting ended and delegates filed out, still arguing among themselves, Lisa pulled out her secure communicator. She typed a quick message to Captain Jack Miller, currently waiting aboard the Indomitable in Earth orbit. They want to show Jack. Don't hold back. The reply came seconds later, Roger that. This is going to be fun. Lisa smiled and headed for her transport. In 3 days, the galaxy was going to learn what human warships could really do. Captain Jack Miller sat in the command chair of the UHSV Indomitable, watching the swirling colors of faster-than-light travel through the main viewport. His crew was ready, every station manned and double-checked. They had spent the last 3 days running drills, making sure every system was perfect for this demonstration. Coming up on the jump gate, Captain, his navigator called out. 30 seconds. All hands, prepare for normal space transition, Jack announced over the ship-wide intercom. He had been in the Navy for 20 years, commanded 3 other ships before this one, but the Indomitable was special. This wasn't just a warship. This was humanity's statement to the galaxy. The jump gate loomed ahead, a massive ring of energy floating in space. The Indomitable passed through, and suddenly they were in the Kellis Proving Grounds. The area was enormous, a debris field from thousands of years of military tests. Old wrecked ships, destroyed platforms, and floating chunks of metal stretched as far as sensors could detect. Sir, I'm picking up the Council observation platforms, the sensor officer reported. 32 of them, all maintaining safe distance as instructed. Jack nodded. Open a channel to the Council. Let's say hello. Ambassador Lisa Grant's face appeared on a side screen. She was aboard one of the observation platforms with a dozen nervous alien delegates. Captain Miller, the Council is ready to begin whenever you are. The targets have been positioned as requested. Understood, Ambassador. Beginning demonstration now. Jack switched channels to his weapons officer. Lieutenant Barnes, you ready? Yes, sir, came the reply from the weapons station. All cannons loaded, targeting systems online. Zeus is running perfectly. Zeus was the ship's artificial intelligence, a military-grade tactical computer that could process millions of scenarios per second. Right now, Zeus was analyzing every target in the proving grounds, calculating optimal firing solutions, predicting debris patterns, and generally being what one crew member called scarily good at blowing things up. Target Alpha, derelict Sorrel cruiser at bearing 270, Jack ordered. Single kinetic round, 50% power. The Indomitable's main cannon fired. There was barely any sound inside the ship, just a low hum as the magnetic accelerators spun up. On the view screen, the round traveled across space faster than most ships could fly. It hit the old cruiser dead center. The entire ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was an expanding cloud of vapor and tiny fragments. On the Council platforms, alarms were going off. Jack could hear shouting over the open channel. That was 50% power? Someone yelled. Correct, Jack replied calmly. Target Beta, defensive platform cluster. Zeus, multiple targets, show them what you can do. The AI took over. 8 cannons fired in rapid sequence, each round hitting a different target within 2 seconds. Every shot was perfect. The defensive platforms exploded one after another, their shields worthless against the kinetic impacts. Target Gamma, attack drone swarm, Jack continued. Point defense only. 200 simulated attack drones launched from a hidden position, swarming toward the Indomitable from multiple angles. The ship's point defense grid lit up like a fireworks display. Thousands of small laser turrets tracked and fired, each one controlled by Zeus. The drones didn't stand a chance. Every single one was destroyed before getting within 5 kilometers of the ship. Jack was about to order the next target when every alarm on the bridge went off at once. Sir, hyperspace rupture, the sensor officer shouted. Multiple contacts directly ahead. On the main screen, space tore open. 12 ships dropped out of hyperspace and Jack recognized them immediately. Craxian raiders, the most aggressive species in this sector. Their ships were ugly, brutal things, all heavy armor and oversized weapons. What are they doing here? Barnes asked. This is neutral space. The communication channels exploded with panic. Council observers were screaming, their ships powering up shields and trying to scatter. Some of the smaller observation platforms were completely defenseless. All Council vessels, this is Raider Commander Vkesh, a harsh voice cut through the chaos. Your presence here is convenient. You will surrender your ships and... Jack didn't let him finish. All Council vessels, hold your position. UHSV Indomitable will handle this. Captain Miller, a panicked alien commander broke in. You cannot be serious. You're outnumbered 12-1. Jack looked at his tactical display. 12 Craxian raiders versus 1 human battleship. He allowed himself a small smile. Yeah, seems about fair. Sir, they're hostile, his first officer warned. Rules of engagement? Weapons free, Jack said quietly. Zeus, target all enemy vessels. These raiders just made a big mistake. Let's show the Council what the Indomitable was really built for. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Barnes called out target locks. The navigator positioned the ship for optimal firing angles. The engineer monitored power distribution to weapons and shields. The Craxian raiders were still closing, probably expecting the single human ship to run or surrender. They had no idea what was coming. Jack leaned forward in his chair. All hands, battle stations. Today we show them what happens when you threaten Earth's allies. The Indomitable banked hard, its engines flaring bright blue as it accelerated directly toward the enemy fleet. On the Council platforms, someone whispered, "They're actually going to fight." No, Ambassador Grant corrected, watching with a proud smile. They're going to win. The Craxian fleet arranged themselves in their famous wedge formation, 12 ships moving with practiced coordination. They had used this tactic for centuries, overwhelming enemies with concentrated firepower from multiple angles. Their commander, Vkesh, had raided over 40 systems using this exact strategy. He expected the single human ship to panic, to run, or to die quickly. What he got instead was something he would never forget. Enemy vessels locked in attack formation. Lieutenant Barnes called out from weapons. They're charging weapons, sir. All 12 ships. Zeus, tactical analysis. Jack ordered, his voice calm despite the situation. The AI responded immediately, its synthetic voice filling the bridge. Enemy formation analyzed. Predicted attack vectors calculated. Optimal countermaneuver ready. Probability of victory, 98.7%. On the Council observation platforms, delegates were frozen in terror. They had heard stories about Craxian raiders. These were the pirates who had terrorized shipping lanes for generations. These were the warriors who showed no mercy, took no prisoners, and had never lost a fleet engagement. And they were about to attack a single human ship. All power to forward shields, Jack commanded. Barnes, target their lead ships. Zeus, I want firing solutions on all 12. And Helm, when I give the word, full burn straight at them. His first officer looked shocked. Sir, you want us to charge them? Absolutely, Jack grinned. They're expecting us to run. Let's give them a surprise instead. The Craxian fleet opened fire first. Dozens of plasma bolts and missiles streaked across space toward the Indomitable. The human ship's shields flared bright as they absorbed the impacts, but held firm. The point defense grid came alive, thousands of laser turrets tracking and destroying incoming missiles before they could hit. Shields holding at 85%, the engineer reported. That barely scratched us, sir. Good, Jack said. Now it's our turn. All cannons fire at will. The Indomitable's 18 kinetic cannons fired in a devastating salvo. The rounds moved so fast they were almost invisible, just streaks of light crossing the void. The first Craxian ship took 3 direct hits. Its shields collapsed instantly, and the rounds punched straight through the armored hull. The raider exploded from the inside, torn apart by the kinetic energy. Target destroyed, Barnes announced. 11 remaining. But Jack wasn't done. Helm, execute attack pattern Delta. Full power. What happened next made the alien observers gasp in disbelief. The Indomitable didn't just move forward, it exploded into motion. The ship spun on its axis, rolled completely over, and accelerated at a speed that should have been impossible for something so large. Human inertial dampeners kept the crew safe, but from the outside, it looked like the battleship was dancing. The Craxians tried to adjust their formation, but they were too slow. The Indomitable cut between two of their ships, firing cannons on both sides simultaneously. Both raiders were crippled in seconds, their engines destroyed, spinning helplessly in space. 9 left, Jack counted. Zeus pattern Gamma. Let's finish this. The AI took partial control, coordinating maneuvers that no human pilot could execute alone. The Indomitable moved through the enemy formation like a shark through fish. Every movement was calculated, every shot perfect. The Craxian raiders were experienced fighters, but they had never faced anything like this. One Craxian cruiser, heavier and more armored than the others, tried a desperate tactic. It aimed straight for the Indomitable, engines at maximum, attempting to ram the human ship. It was a suicide move, but if it worked, both ships would be destroyed. "Brace for impact," someone shouted on the bridge. The cruiser slammed into the Indomitable's side. But instead of both ships exploding, something incredible happened. The reactive nanoweave armor activated. The molecular structure didn't just absorb the impact, it exploded outward, releasing all the kinetic energy back at the attacker. The Craxian cruiser crumpled like paper, its hull crushed by its own momentum reflected back at it. Hull integrity at 92%, the engineer reported, amazed. The armor actually got stronger from that hit. "I love human engineering," Jack muttered. The remaining Craxian ships were now in full panic. They broke formation trying to scatter. But Zeus had predicted their retreat routes. The Indomitable's cannons fired again and again, each shot perfectly placed. Within minutes, only one enemy ship remained, desperately trying to reach hyperspace distance. Jack could have destroyed it easily. Instead, he had a better idea. "Barnes, load 1 round full power. I want a warning shot." "Sir?" "You heard me. Fire across their bow, but aim past them. Way past them." Barnes calculated the shot and fired. The kinetic round screamed past the fleeing Craxian ship, missing it by barely 100 meters. The round continued traveling, crossing 10,000 kilometers in seconds, until it hit a small uninhabited moon on the edge of the system. The moon exploded. Not cracked, not damaged, completely vaporized. One shot, one moon gone forever. The Craxian ship stopped running. Its engines powered down. A shaking voice came over the radio. We surrender. Please, we surrender." Total battle time, 11 minutes and 37 seconds. On the council platforms, nobody spoke. Nobody moved. They just stared at the Indomitable, floating peacefully among the wreckage of the Craxian fleet, its hull barely scratched. Finally, Ambassador Lisa Grant's voice broke the silence, and there was definitely amusement in her tone. "So, approved for production?" The emergency session began within hours of the battle's end. The Grand Chamber of Harmony Station was packed beyond capacity. Delegates who normally sent assistants to routine meetings showed up personally. The viewing of the battle footage had been mandatory, and every species representative had watched the Indomitable dismantle the Craxian fleet with what could only be described as casual efficiency. The Velcari delegate was the first to speak, his voice shaking. "We cannot allow this ship to be mass-produced. It is simply too powerful. One vessel destroyed 12 raiders in 11 minutes. 12? Do you understand what this means?" "It means we're finally safe," countered a military commander from the Drexen Collective. "The Craxians have terrorized our shipping lanes for decades. One human ship stopped them cold. We should be ordering 100 of these vessels." The chamber erupted in argument. Some delegates were terrified, others excited, most somewhere confused in between. Ambassador Lisa Grant sat quietly in the human section, letting them debate. She had expected this reaction. The Sorrel commander stood up, calling for order. "Let us examine the facts calmly. The Indomitable demonstrated capabilities far beyond any current council vessel. The question is whether this represents a threat or an opportunity." "Threat!" shouted several delegates at once. "Opportunity," others countered just as loudly. A Harmony species delegate, known for their peaceful nature, stood with tears in her large eyes. "I watched that battle. I watched a ship destroy others with such ease, such precision. That level of violence, that capacity for destruction, it frightens me. What happens when humans decide we are their enemy?" Lisa finally spoke up. "We wouldn't. Earth has committed to the Council Charter. We're here as allies, not conquerors." "Today you are allies," an older delegate said quietly. "But tomorrow? Next year? Humans are newcomers. We have species in this council whose civilizations are millions of years old. You have been in space for barely 2 centuries. How can we trust your intentions over the long term?" "Because we keep our word," Lisa replied simply. The debate continued for hours. Then the Valkyrie delegate dropped the first intelligence report. "I had my analysts research human military development," he said, his voice grim. "What they found is disturbing. Humans currently have 47 different warship classes in various stages of development." The chamber went silent. 47? Someone whispered. 47, the Valkyrie confirmed. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, frigates, and classes we don't even have names for. Each one designed for specific combat roles. The Indomitable isn't an anomaly, it's part of a comprehensive military doctrine. Another delegate stood up with a data pad. "I've reviewed human history. They've been fighting wars since before they invented writing. They've refined warfare over thousands of years, treating it as both science and art. They have academies dedicated entirely to military strategy. They write books about how to win battles. They study their own defeats to avoid repeating mistakes." "Every species has military history," someone argued. "Not like this," the delegate replied. "Most species develop space travel, join the galactic community, and gradually reduce their military focus. Humans did the opposite. They brought their entire military-industrial complex with them to the stars. Ship construction, weapons development, tactical training, it's all still operating at full capacity." The really damaging evidence came on the second day of debate. A council investigator, looking exhausted and worried, presented his findings. "I need everyone to understand something critical," he began. "The Indomitable, this ship that destroyed 12 Craxian raiders, this vessel we're all terrified of, it's not even their best warship." "What?" The chamber erupted again. "The Indomitable was built to our specifications," the investigator continued. "Council regulations limit military vessel size, power output, and weapon capacity. The humans followed those rules exactly when building this ship. But the dreadnoughts they're constructing for their own defense fleet aren't bound by Council restrictions." He pulled up images on the main display. Massive ships under construction in Earth orbit, each one 3 times the size of the Indomitable. These are the Titan-class dreadnoughts. 12 are currently being built. When completed, each one will carry 60 kinetic cannons, have shield generators 5 times more powerful than the Indomitable, and house 3,000 crew members. "They're building a war fleet," someone said quietly. "They're building a defense fleet," Lisa corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" the Valkyrie demanded. "Can you honestly tell us that humans won't use these ships aggressively? That you won't decide to expand, to conquer, to dominate?" Lisa stood up, her voice calm but firm. "Humanity has never attacked a council member. We've defended ourselves when attacked, yes. We built these ships because the galaxy is dangerous, as the Craxian raid proved. But we've never started a war with another species." The debate raged for 3 full days. The peacekeeping faction argued that the Indomitable destabilized the entire galactic balance of power. The military faction countered that it was exactly what the Council needed for defense. Moderates suggested restrictions, limitations, monitoring. Finally, on the 3rd day the vote was called. The resolution was simple: ban the Indomitable class from production and impose strict limits on human military development. The electronic voting took 5 minutes. When the results appeared on the main display, the chamber fell silent. 38 votes in favor, 9 against. The ban passed. Ambassador Lisa Grant stood and bowed respectfully. "The United Earth government respects the Council's decision. The Indomitable will be decommissioned immediately. We will comply with all restrictions placed on our military development." The Valkyrie delegate looked relieved. The Harmony delegate was crying with joy. Even the military faction seemed satisfied, at least the threat was contained. The Indomitable was officially decommissioned the following week. Captain Jack Miller sailed it back to Earth orbit, where it was designated as a historical museum ship. Tours were scheduled. School children visited. It became a tourist attraction. For 6 months, the Galactic Council believed they had successfully contained humanity's military ambitions. They had no idea how wrong they were. 6 months after the Indomitable was banned, the Craxian Empire made its move. Their high command had been planning revenge ever since 12 of their raiders were humiliated by a single human ship. They couldn't let that insult stand. Their honor demanded retribution. 300 warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Council territory. It was the entire Craxian armada, gathered from every sector they controlled. Their message was broadcast across all channels: the Council will pay for harboring human protectors. Surrender now or be destroyed. The Council's defense fleet scrambled to respond. 40 ships, the best they could gather on short notice, move to intercept. The battle was a massacre. Craxian tactics were brutal and effective. They had numbers, experience, and most importantly, they were angry. Within 3 days, the Council fleet was shattered. Stations were burning, colonies were being evacuated, and panic spread across dozens of systems. Emergency distress calls went out to every Council member species. We need reinforcements. Anyone who can help, please respond. The replies were disheartening. Most species needed weeks to mobilize their fleets. Some were too far away. Others admitted their military forces weren't strong enough to face the Craxian armada. Then, from Earth came a single text message. It was sent by Admiral Emily Grant, Lisa's older sister and commander of Earth's home defense fleet. The message was short and simple: on our way. We're not bringing the Indomitable. On the Council command station, delegates stared at that message in confusion. What does that mean? The Valkyrie asked. Are they refusing to help? No, Ambassador Lisa Grant said, and there was something in her smile that made everyone nervous. It means they're bringing something else. 12 hours later, the human fleet arrived. 12 ships jumped into the combat zone simultaneously, emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation. They were smaller than the Indomitable, sleeker, more refined. The lead ship transmitted its identification, UHSV Vindication. 12 ships, a Council commander said in disbelief. They sent 12 ships against 300? Look at the specifications they're transmitting, a sensor operator said, her voice shaking. These ships, they're built entirely within Council restrictions. Size, power output, weapons capacity, everything meets the rules we imposed. Then how are they supposed to help? Someone demanded. They were about to find out. The Vindication-class ships moved into attack formation. Their captain, a veteran named Daniel Rhodes, opened a channel to the Council forces. All Council vessels, fall back to safe distance. We're going to show you what 6 months of human engineering looks like. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The 12 human ships didn't just fight the Craxian armada, they systematically dismantled it. Every lesson learned from the Indomitable's battle had been incorporated into these new vessels. They were faster, more maneuverable, and their weapons were even more precise. The Craxians charged in their traditional formations, expecting to overwhelm the small human fleet through sheer numbers. Instead, the Vindication-class ships split into 4 groups of 3, each group targeting a different section of the enemy armada. They used tactics the Council had never seen before: coordinated fire patterns, overlapping fields of attack, and constant movement that made them nearly impossible to target. Zeus AI, now improved and installed in every human warship, coordinated the entire battle. The 12 ships fought as one organism, each captain trusting the AI to position them perfectly. When one ship needed to reload, another moved to cover. When shields dropped, the formation adjusted instantly. The battle lasted 6 hours. By the end, the Craxian armada was in full retreat. Over 200 of their ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining vessels fled into hyperspace, broadcasting surrender messages and begging for mercy. But the real shock came the next day. 3 other hostile empires that had been watching the battle, species that had raided Council space for years, sent immediate diplomatic messages. They wanted peace treaties. They wanted non-aggression pacts. They wanted to make absolutely sure they never had to face human warships in combat. 1 week later, the Council held a quiet celebration aboard Harmony Station. The mood was awkward. They owed humanity an enormous debt, but they had also tried to restrict human military development just months ago. A sheepish Drexen delegate approached Ambassador Lisa Grant at the reception. Ambassador, I need to ask you something. That demonstration 6 months ago, the Indomitable, you really were just getting started, weren't you? Lisa took a sip of her drink and smiled. We tried to tell you. Humans have been building warships since we learned to float logs on water. That was thousands of years ago. Did you honestly think a 6-month ban would stop us from improving? But how? The delegate asked. The Vindication-class ships meet all our restrictions. They shouldn't be more effective than the Indomitable. They're not more powerful, Lisa explained. They're more efficient. You taught us a valuable lesson about working within limitations. Humans are really good at optimization. When you tell us we can't use more power, we figure out how to use the power we have more effectively. When you limit our weapons, we make smarter weapons. When you restrict our size, we build better coordination systems. The delegate looked sick. We didn't contain you. We just made you better at working within restrictions. Exactly, Lisa nodded. The next day, the Council held an emergency vote. All restrictions on human military development were quietly repealed. The official reason given was reassessment of galactic security needs, but everyone knew the truth. The Indomitable was recommissioned and returned to active duty. Captain Jack Miller took command again, joining a growing human fleet with names like Relentless, Unstoppable, Defiant, and, to the Council's nervous amusement, Diplomatic Solution. At the recommissioning ceremony, a reporter asked Captain Jack about the human approach to warfare. His answer became famous across the galaxy: "We're humans. We don't just build weapons. We turn war itself into a science. We study it, refine it, perfect it. And then we hope we never have to use it. But if we do, we make sure we win." The galaxy learned two important lessons that year. First, never underestimate human engineering. And second, never tell humans what they can't build. Because they'll just take it as a challenge and build something even better. The Craxians never raided Council space again. Neither did anyone else. As one alien strategist put it, fighting humans isn't just dangerous. It's educational. They'll show you exactly how outmatched you are, and then they'll improve their methods for next time. Humanity